Hi there, I'm Barbara Ann Wright, a writer and editor for Bold Strokes Books, and I want to welcome you to the terrifying world of pitching a novel. We hope to make it slightly less terrifying with this presentation. Here are some helpful hints to start you out on the right foot. You're going to want to speak slowly and clearly. When people are nervous, they tend to speak faster than they think they are. So you want to practice your pitch and make yourself slow down. You want to practice it until you can do it in your sleep, and no one wants to hang out with you anymore. You're going to want to use your time wisely. You get 10 to 15 minutes for the entire session, but you want to leave time at the end for the publisher to ask you questions. So the pitch itself should be no more than 5 minutes. Now, we're going to get you ready for those questions, so don't start panicking here. The publisher can ask you some pretty in-depth things that make you want to melt into a puddle of goo, but we're going to help you out there, so have no worries. Now, what exactly is in that book pitch, that 5 minutes? Well, there are four things you have to include. They're the title, the length of the book, the genre of the book, and a brief plot summary. Now, for title, a lot of people like to give the title and then say, "Oh, that can be changed," or "I suck at titles," or "I'm sorry, I'm no good at that." Don't talk crap about your work, not when you're trying to sell it to someone. Your work is fantastic. It's gotten you this far. So don't denigrate it now. Be proud of it. Stand up for it. The length is a little easier. Whatever your book word count is, which usually will tell you in Word or whatever document program you're using to construct it, you want to round up to the nearest thousand. So if Word is telling you your book is at 84,652 words, your book is at 85,000 words. Now, the genre is where you might find your book in a bookstore. That's usually fantasy, sci-fi, romance, historical, that sort of thing. It's okay if your book is two genres, like I often write fantasy romance, or you can include subgenre here, like your book is a cozy mystery. There are all sorts of websites on the internet will give you a rundown of every single genre. Don't panic too hard here. The publisher is going to tell you how best to market your book, but just tell them basically what you think it is. And make sure that you tell them here whether it's contemporary or historical. So now that brings us to the brief plot summary, which you're like, 5 minutes? How could I possibly talk about a book in 5 minutes? Well, I'm going to read you the back of a book, an entire book blurb, and I want you to see just how short of a time it takes. So this is Radcliffe's new release, Unrivaled, and here is the blurb. Zoe Cohen spent a lifetime learning to hide disappointment and loss behind a mask of unshakable calm and control, even when her longtime friend with benefits lover moves on for true love. Declan Black returns to Philadelphia Medical Center after an accident costs her the life she'd built and her career. She's resolved to protect herself from ever being vulnerable to past mistakes by rebuilding her life around her new role as an ER attending, and that life does not include love. Zoe will never accept second place in matters of the heart, even when her rival is a career, and Dec has nothing left to give of herself or her heart. Sometimes change is a force more powerful than will. See, that is an entire book blurb, and it took, what, about a minute? That's it. You can go into a much deeper dive there. You can talk about your characters' conflicts, what you think will hook a reader. You can really get into everybody's motivations and what's at stake for them in your plot. Now let's get into the questions that you need to prepare for. These are some of the things that the publisher might ask you. And you might think, "I don't know, how in the hell should I know that? I don't know any questions. I don't know anything." But don't worry, you know your work better than anyone. So do not panic because you got this. The first question that you might be asked is, what makes your book special? Now, everyone hates this question, whether they're asked about it in an interview or whether it's asked about their book. So you need to just think about why you wrote the book. If someone asked me why I wrote my books, I might say because there weren't enough sci-fi and fantasy books around with LGBT characters. The second question you might be asked is, why would a reader pick up your book? This is a deeper dive into the hook, the thing about your book that is going to make people want to read it. If you think about every blurb that you've read, the thing on the back of the book, the thing that I just read to you, there's something in there that makes a person want to pick up that book. So look at your book as a reader might, and think about what it is in your story that would make someone want to pick it up. Third question you might be asked, is your topic timely and interesting? What drew you to the story in the first place is what you need to ask yourself. We're all a product of our times. So why are you writing about the thing that you're writing about? You can look at the world around you here and think, oh, well, during the pandemic, I wanted to write something fluffy and cute. Or maybe you're thinking, it's a hard time in my life, so I really wanted to lean into the angst. Whatever it is that's surrounding you that brought this story to mind, that's what the publisher is asking about here. Now, another question you might be asked is, are you writing a particular trope or genre? And if you're asking yourself, what in the world is a trope? A simple internet search will help you out there. It will also help you learn what tropes or genres are really popular at the moment. For instance, romance is always popular. It's the most popular genre out there. So if you have a romantic subplot, now would be the time to mention that. Now here's another question for you. What makes your book stand out? This is a comparison of your work to others in the same genre. And again, you can go back to what compelled you to write this in the first place. If I was going to revisit my answer from earlier about wanting to see more fantasy or sci-fi with LGBT characters, I would say beyond that, I wanted to make sure that no one cared about anyone being LGBT. No one cared about anyone's sexuality in my worlds. So you need to think about what particularly compelled you to write the work the way you did it. Now for everyone's favorite questions, personal questions. Yay, we all love talking about ourselves, or not. So the publisher wants to know about you, so you need to put aside that famous modesty and a habit of putting yourself down. Don't put yourself down here. You're selling you and you're selling your work. So the sort of personal questions you might be asked are you good at marketing? Do you have social media accounts? Do you use them? Do you have followers already for any reason, writing or otherwise? Do you like talking to people? Could you travel to different cons? Could you do virtual presentations? Don't worry here if the answer is no. A second question might be, have you ever been published? Even if you did a small piece or an unpaid piece for a magazine or a website or anything, all of that's here. You mention any of that because it shows that you can work for a deadline. Again, don't worry if the answer is no. The last question we want to know is, are you passionate about writing? Don't hide your light on this one. Share what writing means to you. Bold Strokes is very passionate about books, and you can bond with us and share that joy that creating stories gives you. And that's the end. Congratulations, everyone, for sticking with it. I hope that pitching seems a lot less terrifying now than it did when we started. Bold Strokes Books is looking forward to seeing you at PubCon on June 26th and looking forward to your pitches after that. Just remember, we love books. We're looking for books. We might be looking for your books. And you can make us love it just as much as you do. Thanks, everybody.